Let me start by asking you. So we all know about the Hero Group, but can you tell a little more about the Hero Electric initiative?
Hero Group has been there since 1956. When we actually introduced electric cycles, this is way back in 2001. When I introduced electric cycles in India. So basically, the whole concept was I was trying to bridge a gap between a cycle and a motorcycle. Didn't quite work. Then 2004 again, tried it. We'd sent a couple of our mopeds to a company we were working with in Las Vegas in the industrial zone. And we took out the fuel tank, plugged in lithium-ion batteries, and the vehicle worked. I mean, it worked brilliantly. But the issue was that the batteries were way too expensive at that point. So in 2007, we launched electric scooters here. I knew that this industry will take a long time to really fructify. How long? Didn't really know at that point of time. So I put together the team at that point of time. And that's when we actually set this as a separate company and a separate business. And we had the strength of the brand Hero. So that's when we established Hero Electric as a separate company. And then in any case, as a family, we separated our businesses in 2010. And the the brand Hero for all environmental friendly products actually came to us because that's what I'd been doing for a very long time. So that's how Hero Electric started off.
How have you seen the overall electric mobility unfold in India, let's say last couple of decades?
It's been a very interesting journey, so to speak. So we've had a substantial amount of tailwinds pushing us forward for various reasons. But at the same time, we've had a lot of headwinds also come our way. So to start, when we started off in 2000, the 2007 or so, there weren't any companies in this space. In 2009, we actually formed the EV association called SMEV, Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicles. I was made the president of that. Mr. Gill was made the director general. We still continue to run that whole outfit. 2012, the whole market collapsed. There was a financial crisis which happened, which resulted in the rupee devaluing hugely, oil crashing, and there was a third subsidy which was there by MNRE at that point of time, which was initially 34 crores and enhanced to 95 crores later. That finished. These three things resulted in the whole industry crumbling down. We know this is a temporary phenomenon. It's not a long-term, it's not something which is going to be there in the long run, as is with the COVID times. We know this is temporary. We had a two-pronged approach at that point of time. One was keep the market alive. And the second was additional revenue for the dealers, because we had appointed a dealer network which was exclusive to us. We had a responsibility towards them. Our volumes had dropped to something like 10,000 units a year across a dealer network at that point of time. So the dealers got some additional revenue. Post then came the announcement for FAME 1 or any MMP, which was in 2012, if I remember correctly. 2013, actually, I think. Yeah, 2013 Jan was the announcement for any MMP policy. From there came FAME 1 in 2015, and then FAME 2 in 2019, and now the amendments to FAME 2. There's been state policies which have been pushing this forward. Delhi has come out with a good policy. A lot of them are manufacturing-led. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra is coming out with their policy. Haryana is coming out with their policy. And like this, there are numerous state policies coming out with theirs. So it's been a very, very interesting journey. It's only in the last couple of years that this has become the buzzword, electric mobility.
What are the big opportunities that you think are there for electrification of transport, if one has to look at?
The opportunities are going to be immense. Now, when you look at it, you've got to break it up into different segments now. Let's look at manufacturing first. In manufacturing, there are immense opportunities which are there. There is time to change. So there will be reskilling which is done. A company, for example, which is in the casting business can easily be making motors now for electric vehicles. A company which is in fine precision forgings could be looking at forgings for fine precision components for electric mobility. A company which is in, let's say, manufacturing fuel tanks could look at things like battery housings, which could go into electric mobility, whether it's the cars or the other forms of this thing. So everything flourishes as we progress ahead. For example, we as a company, we are training the roadside mechanics, which we call as the PGO, Preferred Garage Owners. And though we are training them on our vehicles, effectively they can fix any electric vehicle, two-wheeler. We believe are going to form the base of that pyramid, on which the other forms of mobility are actually going to ride on top. Look at batteries, for example. You get the volumes in electric two-wheelers. The cell manufacturing is going to be then used for other forms as well. You cannot justify a cell manufacturing plant on basis of either buses or commercial vehicles or even cars for that matter. It's going to be mainly on the basis of two-wheelers that everything else will begin to fall in place. So the opportunities are immense going forward.
So, what are the main challenges that one has to overcome if we really want to kind of accomplish these opportunities?
In India, when you look at different forms of mobility, each has a different requirement. Two-wheelers have a different requirement, three-wheelers have a different requirement, cars have a different requirement, and public transport and commercial vehicles. And all of them will start at a different stage. They're not going to all take off at the same time. As I was saying, there's going to be a base of a pyramid, and that pyramid's base is going to come from two-wheelers. So a number of factors which are challenges at this point of time. Some of them were actually demand-led, which was to do with the policy that we had with the FAME 2, and that was not being a very effective policy. Now, as of the last week and a half, that policy has changed. There is an amendment to that policy. So now that's going to become far more interesting, because now the amount that has changed from 10 to 15,000 plus the capping, which has gone from 20 to 40%, is going to tremendously help the market. The other challenges that we have, one is pure awareness itself. So people are still at this point of time not fully aware of it. Last year, we started doing these customer webinars or potential customer webinars, where we were talking to hundreds of potential customers on the other end and understanding from them what is really driving them or what is holding back their decision to switch to electric. A big challenge that customers face is more to do with range anxiety. What we've started doing is installing a basic but dense charging infrastructure in areas that you would go to. A market, you would go to a grocery store where you could park your vehicle outside and you can plug in your vehicle to charge. So what we've done there is we made our batteries portable. Now, portable batteries mean no matter where you are in a block of apartments, you can take your battery up to your apartment, charge it there. You go to your workplace, the way you charge your computer or a mobile phone, you plug it there and you charge it again. And that gives you enough range. So there's no distractions. You're not going to a service station or petrol pump or whatever be the case. So that is, so we are installing that charging infrastructure. Again, that charging infrastructure potentially can be used by any company. The whole momentum would pick up. Start talking about the way that we did for LED and we did for solar. This awareness will proliferate down to different levels. And that is where demand will get created. Another factor, we need to have long-term goals. At this point of time, that's a big challenge. It's very critical for us to set those targets, whether it is 25 or 2030, whatever be the game. Then at least companies like us and others can start planning the supply chains and manufacturing facilities, etc., backwards. Another factor, financing. That's a huge challenge that we have at this point of time. We've approached the government is to say that, look, why don't you do one thing? You register these vehicles for a nominal fee, not at the same fee, not the same registration charges. Give them a green number plate, but don't put them under the license and the road tax, etc. regime. Just register them, which will enable financiers to actually start financing these vehicles. At this point of time, financing is sub 7% or sub 5% of the total sales that are happening. Whereas when you look at IC, it's a very majority of the vehicles are financed. So that's another challenge which exists right now. But I believe this is a challenge which is going to get overcome, because as momentum picks up, there will be traction in the banks and NBFCs to start putting in more and more. The last factor I would say is B2B. Now, B2B is another very, very important factor. With people who are delivering the goods to you at home, whether it's food or e-commerce goods, essentially majority of these vehicles are actually very old vehicles, the highest polluting vehicles on the road. There needs to be a nudge to start converting those vehicles to electric. And I believe these factors will. These are some of the existing challenges.
Do you think this pandemic has in any ways impacted the EV story in India positively or negatively?
In the long term or in the short term, mid-term, this will have a positive impact on this electric vehicle industry. At this point, of course, the whole industry is kind of shaken because of the supply chains being, as we've begun to open up the markets. The dealerships footfalls were not there because, of course, the dealerships were shut. And even then, people are wary of going to the dealerships. So last year, we prepared ourselves with a hybrid model of online plus offline. So even our website, we are pushing vehicles through the website, but we route them through the dealer because we want the dealer to make revenue from there. So our initial purchase price now with this post-subsidy is come down substantially. We're down to about, as against 75,000 odds for average IC engine price, we are down to about 58,500 rupees for a city speed vehicle. The warranties are good, the 3 years. The vehicle for the battery and 5 years for the vehicle will last you a lot longer. In terms of TCO, that is where it becomes really interesting. So if you're using about 40, 50 kilometers a day, you're looking at 1 liter of fuel. So let's say over a 3-year period, which is 1,000 days, you're looking at 1 liter of fuel, which is now about 100 rupees across the country. So about 100 rupees every day, which is 1 lakh rupees that you're spending. Forget the service cost at this point of time, 1 lakh rupees over a 3-year period, just in fuel cost alone, with on a vehicle which is 75,000 rupees. Whereas when you've got electric, the vehicle is now, let's say 60,000. It's slightly low, but let's, for calculation purposes, take 60. And on top of that, you're using 1.5 units of power, which is 12 rupees. So 12 rupees into 1,000, that's 12,000 versus 1 lakh. You've got a straight off 88,000 rupees saving there. And then on the vehicle also you're saving. So these factors have now really begun to fall in favor of electric in terms of the TCO and the initial purchase price. That is where we believe the market is going to begin to shift.
Where do you see electric mobility in, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
I don't think it's a distant dream any longer, actually. A number of factors have begun to fall into place. If you had asked me last year, I would have said, I had a different assumptions and projections in mind, but that's something that we continuously changing. So 50 to 60%, we are looking at a market which could be about 22 to 25 million units in 2030 for electric mobility. And that's doable. When you look closer to this thing, so we had our assumptions for 2025, which we've now taken to 2026. We are looking at a 4 million approximately unit market by 2026, which is 5 years away, up from 150,000 last year. So that's the kind of a projected growth that we foresee coming, 150,000 to 4 million in the next 5 years. So it's not a distant dream any longer at all.
What can research organization WRI do to help accelerate electric mobility deployment in India?
See, one of the very, very important factors for a research organization such as yourselves is to really get the word out where it matters. Us talking about it, to government agencies and to the powers that be, etc., has a different impact than you guys talking about it. And you would be researching across the industry. So you would be then consolidating and you would be averaging out what everybody is saying and then, making your own assumptions based on that. So one is to get the word out that this is a market and there are certain factors which have got to happen to really catapult this. Second is the support that is required by this industry at this point of time. While it's extremely important to actually get into localization and localized manufactured products, but that increases the prices. So that has to be a gradual shift which happens. There will be enough R&D spends which will be happening from here. There will be enough companies which will be looking at investing into mining and of the minerals and metals and etc. All of that, battery manufacturing, everything begins to fall in place once people can see traction and that ecosystem for the momentum in the right direction. And there's going to be no disruption. The other factor is that retraining and reskilling, we still got time for that. We are talking about the next 5-7 years, and that is easily doable thing from an industry standpoint, from every other standpoint. And there will be job creation that happens. Imagine now this reskilling, suddenly you'll have technical centers come up, mushrooming up, which are going to be training these workers on how to handle electric mobility and how to use these things. Charging infrastructure, that's a paramount, that's very important when it comes to range anxiety issues. Without that, the car industry is going to suffer. It's going to be very difficult for them. So they have to have it. In two-wheelers, what we need is basic but dense charging infrastructure to fall in place. And then the last factor I would say is, financing. So a nudge to the financiers, to the NBFCs, to the banks, etc., to start financing these vehicles. So we know that there are some discussions between the nationalized banks in terms of financing these vehicles, but it's still not moved in that direction to that extent. And the last factor I would say again is B2B, nudge to B2B to start converting into electric. The only thing is there's a little more management that they have to do. Earlier, they were just paying a flat fee to this thing. Here, there is slightly more complex structuring that needs. So all of us need to take responsibility of that. That whole value chain needs to fall in place. That's another important factor.